Hello, Briot.
Hey, Brian.
And yet another day. I woke up and I'm still at home. So we were having a slight conversation about a model of three modes that's quite simple and is interesting if you want to begin a journey or to go more in depth in your journey of self-reflection, understanding your human condition. There's a fairly interesting and simple model of the three modes. So could you kind of just give an overview, a simple overview of what the three modes are and how they work together and how you would use it?
Okay. This is a nice topic that I like a lot, and it's something that is quite tangible. You can really see it when you're meditating on it in your life, in the world around you. So in the Bhagavad Gita, they explain that everything in this material world, they're governed by three forces, which they call in Sanskrit they say Sattvagun, Rajagun or Tamagun. In English they call it the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. And the combination of these three forces, they govern everything in this universe. It's like you have your three primary colors, and the mixture of these colors, they produce the entire spectrum of color that we perceive. So similarly,
Great analogy, by the way.
yeah, so these modes, they act in the same way. And so the basic characteristics of these modes is that mode of goodness maintains, mode of passion creates, and mode of ignorance destroys. And then they also have subcategories, and from this meditation of these primary qualities, one can also deduce that other qualities. For example, mode of goodness is characterized by being in the present moment and being peaceful. Mode of passion is characterized by unlimited desire, one desire after the next. As soon as you've done one thing, immediately another thing's in your mind. While you're doing that, you're already thinking about the next thing and constantly living in the future, making plans. So then anxiety and the tendency to work very hard, but not necessarily in a good way, is, or rather let's say over endeavor. That these are qualities of passion. And then in the qualities, yeah?
The qualities of passion sound very much like the frenetic energy of our modern day society.
Very much, very much. It says this planet is primarily dominated by passion and ignorance. So definitely, you're correct in that. It's true. And mode of ignorance.
So what was ignorance?
Yeah, the qualities of the mode of ignorance is usually living in the past. You're very slow. Like mode of goodness is also slow, but it's productive and illuminating. Whereas the mode of ignorance is slow and lethargic. And whereas mode of passion is very quick, very quick. Like I'm very passionate sometimes. Like I talk very fast. It's because mode of passion. Whereas somebody who's like very enlightened, they don't necessarily speak very slow, but you can see very thoughtful and very conscious in every word they use. Whereas somebody in the mode of ignorance is like also speaking very slow, and there's not really a lot going up on here. So there's a distinction. So lethargy, sleep, disease, madness, these are characteristics of the mode of ignorance, and depression also, it's mode of ignorance. And something like,
as you said, even though those are the broad strokes of the three modes, there's miniature strokes. And in my day, I can be flipping through all three of those modes all day long. Like one action will be one mode, and another action will be another mode. So it's not just held to those broad strokes.
Yes, yes. And these modes, they're always competing with each other for dominance. And so all three of them are always present to some degree. Even when you're in the mode of goodness, there'll always be some trace of passion and ignorance there. Which is even why when you're in the mode of in the mode of goodness, you can't let your guard down, because the mode of passion and ignorance can still creep in at any time.
Sneak up on you. Yeah. So having said that, the utility of understanding the three modes and what is the utility? How do you use those in your day?
Yes.
I think you started to allude to it there, but what is the
Yeah.
utility of learning the mode and then looking to apply it in the moment?
For one who wants to embark like on some kind of journey of self-discovery or transformation or some kind of spiritual path, one has to be trying to associate with the mode of goodness and trying to avoid the association of the mode of passion and ignorance. Because in passion, there's too much going on in your consciousness in terms of desire that it makes it hard to focus properly on your spiritual path. And in the mode of ignorance, there's just no light to see at all. So mode of goodness is required. It's like the platform for which you can jump into transcendence. So the utility would be when one would be able to identify which mode you're acting under, for one, and then also be able to know how to shift the modes that you're under the influence under, and how to design a lifestyle that works for you that is under the mode of ignorance and not and less under the mode of passion and ignorance. Sorry, it is under the mode of, and less under passion and ignorance.
A point of clarity is if we are avoiding ignorance and passion and we're looking to embrace goodness, which is a spiritual path, what is just an overview of why would somebody be choosing a spiritual path? Why would somebody be looking to be self-reflective and transformational? Might be redundant, but I think it's worth actually underlining.
It's to enhance the quality of your own life and to enhance the quality of your own experience.
Yeah, so hum me, count the ways. Count the ways that your life, somebody who wants to have a more rewarding life, a better life. Give me examples of those bullet points.
All right. I would say wake up early.
No, not what you would do. No. Not the doingness. I mean the, why would I want to, what is it that I would want to go on a spiritual, what am I looking to get out of a spiritual endeavor?
What are you looking to get out of it?
Yes. Like what is, if I want a better life, you said you'd have a better life.
Yeah.
So let's count the ways. In what way will I have a better life? Instead of doing this, I'm going to do this.
All right.
Instead of doing that, I'm going to do this.
You will experience a lot less anxiety. You will experience more satisfaction because the things that you already have will actually please you more than they currently do.
Yes.
You will
why will you have less? Why would you have less anxiety?
Yeah, you'll have less anxiety because you won't be so attached to the results of what you're endeavoring for. Because you'll understand that what will be, and I'm endeavoring for something, and then it might not turn out the way I will. It probably won't, but that's okay. And then that's very useful. So then that anxiety is dropped, and because of that, you are more efficient in what you do. You waste less time, and you also are better at it.
So you're going to be more accepting, and you're not going to be chasing things as much as you did before.
Yeah, which doesn't mean
what else?
Endeavoring or working hard, but it means you'll actually be better at what you do.
Yes.
Because a lot of your energy is not being wasted anymore on thoughts which don't actually benefit you. And then that energy gets freed up and it can be channeled into another part of your life which will benefit you. So then
Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of a place that we waste energy, where we're thinking and endeavoring or wanting, and then when we stop doing that, we use that energy for living a better life? Give me an example of what we would stop doing. What kind of ruminating or action?
Okay. Like negative internal dialogue, like yesterday we were talking about some things, like
yes.
Festering ideas of failure and of what am I going to do when that happens, and then also with the way that even makes you feel. So sometimes these thoughts come up and they're important to consider, but once you've thought them, you don't have to revisit them again and again and again, which is quite draining. So
Yes.
you're festering on your lack of confidence, or on there's another example. Your
Results you don't want.
predictions of what you expect to happen, and then you try and think up all kind of plans to try and make that not happen. So that takes a lot
Yes.
of energy, and you can spend a whole day just thinking about these things. Whereas
Yeah.
you could have been thinking about something more productive or more helpful. Yeah, that's just one example.
Okay.
I think all of us have experienced at one point in our life when the mind doesn't want to shut up, and it actually causes us a lot of suffering because of that. And we even try to make it shut up, but it won't. And then that's quite a crappy situation to be in.
Absolutely. Anytime that people are really fearful in their life and staring at their ceiling, that's generally what's going on at 3 o'clock in the morning, where their eyes are still open
Yeah.
and they've been in bed for 4 hours and their mind is just going round and round. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay, so in as an overview, if you want to get on the spiritual path, you can use the 3 modes to figure out where you are and to be able to understand these thoughts and desires and wants and emotions. And then you can diagnose where you are and understand the bridge to a mode that's going to be more useful to you.
Yeah.
So it creates understanding and bridges. And then what it bridges and what it takes us away from is our negative thoughts about ourselves, about desires and passions and control, and our relationship with fear. Okay? Is that a pretty good overview? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. So understanding the qualities of these modes and how we are associating with them will then also help us then to design something practical for ourselves that we can do to shift the influence of these modes on our consciousness.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Okay, let's do it. Yep.
All right. So mode of goodness, let's say there's a lot of different things or ways in which they affect us. For example, just the food we eat, different foods, they are governed by different modes. And in the Bhagavad Gita, they're explaining these different categories. Like, for example, in the mode of goodness, foods that are in the mode of goodness, they promote longevity, they promote health, they are sweet and juicy and fatty, they are invigorating and enlivening, and they're fresh.
Yes.
These are just some qualities. Foods in the mode of passion are too salty or too spicy or too sour. Like you look at somebody's plate and they've got like 5 chilies and 2 limes on their plate, and then you can understand, what mode of nature they're under.
Okay.
And
Yes.
you see in today's society with the artificial flavorings, they're quite intense. Like, I can't eat chips, even lightly salted chips, because the stuff they put in there, it's just a bit of an overload on my system. Because in today's society, you're living so fast in the mode of passion, you need some kind of stimulus that's very intense to cut through all of that so you can actually taste what you're eating. Otherwise, if you have something that's a well-balanced meal, you won't actually be able to appreciate the flavor properly unless you, a little bit in the mode of goodness at least, you sit down and you can eat it, and in the moment you can be like, wow, this is really amazing, the different varieties that are there. But in the mode of passion, you're just sticking it in your mouth, you're thinking about something, maybe dessert or the next thing, and by the time your meal is done, you don't even know what it tasted like because you forgot, you didn't even pay attention. So that's typical mode.
Yeah, you're focusing.
And then
Eating in front of the TV, eating chips in front of the TV.
Yeah.
Good example.
And the mode of ignorance is like old food. It's stale, it's tasteless, it has no nutritional value, and so those are just some foods like the mode of nature. So just by the diet that we choose, we can understand by what mode we're being driven by. and depending on the mode that you're under, will also incline you to a specific diet. So to change that influence of that mode, then by changing your diet is a powerful means. But by changing that, because let's say I'm in the mode of ignorance, I'm inclined to eating those foods. So now if I start eating foods that are in the mode of goodness, I won't be so attracted to it, and I might find it a bit austere, because it's not what I'm conditioned for, and also it's not what resonates with me.
Yes, the lifestyle I'm living, the energy that I'm taking in and giving out, the food is represents that and fulfills, my needs. So whether it's old food or non-nutritional food or junk food, or if it's spicy food or food that's over the top in some way, or food that's wholesome and that resonates with me, virtually they are an expression of my life. Whatever's going on in my life, these are the things I'd be attracted to. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's the food one.
That's
what
just,
other,
they explain even like charity in the different modes, which I won't go through those qualities because it might not be so relevant to us. But they talk about like different charities, like giving to the right person or the wrong person, or with the wrong intention, for example. Like if you're giving money to the right person at the right time for the right reasons, that's mode of goodness. But if you give charity, but in order to receive something back, then that's in the mode of passion. For example, you're doing charities and you're taking selfies so that people will think you're very cool. That's mode of passion charity. But if you're taking a picture to
that's
welfare, that's something else. Yeah, and the mode of ignorance, to the wrong person at the wrong place, you give money to some guy and he goes and buys liquor with it and he just destroys his life further. So that's mode of ignorance charity.
Yeah.
So then still you're being influenced by the modes through these activities.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then the last one would be giving to somebody that, was in need, and that you're doing it from a place that's more or less selfless, that you're looking at just being helpful, and that you're not looking to get anything out of it, about how it makes me feel. And as opposed to, the other two that you were talking about. So other than charity, that's a very good one.
Yeah.
What in looking at people's lives that your average person will be able to relate to, that they want to be able to do something different? If you take a look at a lifestyle change about how they're thinking, if they adopt a spiritual lifestyle, that what could we focus on that they could change? Probably more of a thinking.
Yeah.
More about their thoughts.
More about thinking than about doing. You're wanting.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking, or is kind of?
Oh no, just thinking. Is it any thoughts that they could? There's a lot of different things that they can change. So any one of them.
An excellent start is to go to bed early and to wake up early. I think for every single human being, they should do this as far as possible, especially because the mode of goodness is predominant from, I would say, 2 o'clock in the morning till about 10 in the morning, by which the mode of passion starts taking over, and here by noon, mode of passion is the strongest, and you can check by lunchtime the way people are different to when you see them 8 o'clock in the morning. It's the mode of passion is walking much faster, they're going to have lunch, you can check they've got a lot on their mind, but at 8 o'clock in the morning, things are pretty shanty. And then mode of ignorance will start here from 4 o'clock. It will start taking over. And as the darkness sets in. So waking up early means you're absorbing more of that mode of goodness into your consciousness, and it will change your whole day. I experienced that if I wake up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock instead of 3:30 or 4, it changes my entire day. There's a massive difference in that day. Just that 1 hour. I'm still waking up before the sun is up. But even just that makes such a big difference. And I can't remember the last time I woke up at like 7 o'clock. It was a few months ago. I think I was a bit burnt out. And I did that, and I remember feeling not really good. I wasn't used to waking up that late. It was my whole face felt like it had been smacked with the iron rod. Yeah.
Okay. And in regards to people dealing with their own thought process, is how can they use how can they use the three modes to catch themselves? Like, give examples of what kind of thought process they can catch themselves in the day, and what the different modes are, and how they would move from one to another.
Yeah, that's this one will take some time because some of the patterns might not be easily recognizable at first. For
Yes.
example, if I say when you are in anxiety, then you can always link that to you trying to control a situation in some way or other, which is out of your control. Like you're talking
Yes.
to a person and they don't want to conform to what you want. Then you feel some anxiety and some anger might come out, and that's because you want to control, and that is linked to you having a very strong desire. So that's mode of passion. And if you're acting on that anger, then that means you're more in mode of ignorance, because anger is like a force of destruction. So mode of ignorance is that quality. So then you can assess these things. So by being very reflective and very honest with yourself, you can see these things and think, okay, if I want to be in the mode of goodness, I should be peaceful, and in order to be peaceful, I should give up control. I should just give up this anger I'm feeling now. And then usually the mind's response might be, yes, but, like a child, but I want it. And then once you just deal with it like you would with a child, because that's kind of like your inner child that you're talking to. So in a sense, whether you're not, you're going to have to learn how to parent.
Yeah. So you can use the three modes to be able to diagnose, like even as a starting place.
Yes.
If I'm looking to diagnose behaviors that maybe are not desirable, if I'm going, okay, let's use these three modes. What you've talked about so far was you can look at, what did you just say? You cut out a little bit there. So the three modes you could look at, now I've forgotten the two things that you just said about the conversations that you could be having. Could you do it again? Is that in regards to the negative thoughts that you could be having, the passion that you can be having, and talk about those again so that people can identify that there it is. It's anxious. So that if you're being anxious and you're being anxious a lot and that it doesn't feel right, then you're right. It's like that's the things that you're looking for. You want to look for being anxious. You talked about being angry, that if you're being, angry is passion, or that a level of upset, that is, that if all of these things are fairly extreme and they look like, when it starts dawning on you that this might not be the best use of my energy, I don't know how to stop, but this might not be the best use of my energy, then you can start exploring, so you can use the three modes as a diagnostic tool to be able to figure out where you are, and that this is exactly what we're talking about. If you have an instinct that these things aren't good for you, then you can start using the rest of the model to move. So is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think that's a great application of it also. Is to.
And then, so if you can list a couple more things on what you could notice about passion and also about ignorance. If I'm doing this and this and this and this, these are the things that you want to notice because that's passion. And if I'm doing this and this and this and this, you want to notice those things because that's ignorance.
If you
what are those things?
One thing that people do a lot when they're in mode of passion is that they eat all the time. They're snacking on something all the time, or change. For example, I'm just smoking some mode of ignorance activity, but that activity of that constantly more is like typical mode of
cycle.
Just like so many desires coming in, and the senses, they're all
smoking,
stimulation.
Smoking, eating. What else?
Smoking, eating. I would say watching lots of movies or series.
So shutting off a little bit. I think that's more towards ignorance.
Well, it's what you want is stimulation. That's the thing. Like in mode of passion, you want constant stimulation. So I guess it depends also how you watch, but that you need constant stimulation, that you can't just sit down with yourself and be peaceful. The moment you do that, you just feel like, You know, you feel like itchy, you feel like I got to do something, and then so many things come up in your mind. So that's mode of passion. You can't sit on peacefully. Whereas mode of ignorance, they will constantly seek shelter by intoxication. To like numbing out, I would say is like a mode of ignorance kind of thing. Where
Yes.
it's like smoking
So
is
numbing, just
so,
the act of cutting off from your own feelings,
yes,
alcohol, any kind of self-medication, no matter what the substance is. Okay. Anything else under those two categories?
I think if you're not able to, and this is a nice one for mode of passion, they say that determination under the mode of goodness is constant and the endeavor is always there. Whereas determination in the mode of passion, it starts off well, but it never carries through. So I think all of us experience that where we're starting so many things, but we only 1-2 days or 1-2 weeks, and then you lose steam. Because to start something is good, but to keep it going is hard. It's because starting requires passion, but keeping it going requires goodness. So have that
That's
good.
interesting. That's a very good distinction.
And in mode of ignorance, determination mode of ignorance is where you're talking about doing so many things, but you don't end up doing anything.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, so you're talking about it, but you never actually get to action. If it's just passion, you're good at starting things. You're just not good at finishing any of them.
You're not good at
excellent.
Yeah. So that's like determination in those modes. And then like if you just look at your house, you can see whether if there's a lot of things in your house and it might be more or less organized, then that's more passionate because it's about stimulation also and identification of how you like your space. Whereas mode of goodness will be simple, it will be clean, and also it will be easy to manage. So and mode of ignorance will just be like untidy and dirty and messy. So oftentimes you go into a person who's depressed and you go into their house and you see like there's dirty dishes and it's like, you know, the house hasn't been cleaned in a while. And the first thing that you should do is clean the house. Just an example. Yeah.
Okay. So in the name of keeping these videos as short as possible, is as a last segment, can you talk about that somebody that has discovered that they're now, this information is new to them, and they're now looking at that, yeah, I am anxious, or yes, that I am eating food that is not overly nutritious and in front of the TV and constantly seeking stimulation or whatever it is. If we could go through them again about that, if you've identified this in yourself, this is the transition to goodness or spirituality. So if people have noticed X, you know, name what X is, and then talk about what the bridge is to move over to like either the understanding or the action to move over to goodness. So let's start with anxiety. Anxiety is a good one, and then you can just, you know, pick other ones. So the first one is anxiety. If I realize that, yeah, I feel a lot of anxiety and I don't know what to do about that, how would one start as baby steps, start being able to use these modes to be able to move away from anxiety?
Okay, you've already mentioned the first step, which is just to acknowledge that it's there. That's a great start.
Yes.
And then the second.
And keep watching.
And keep watching.
Keep watching.
The second step, I would be is to, you need to have enough confidence in yourself also, like reassure yourself that everything will be fine and whatever happens, you'll be able to deal with it. So in that way, you should definitely be aware of any negative self-talk that's going on during that time, and you should cut it out because these things are fueled by that negative self-talk, and which makes you want to make up for it in other ways, which makes you anxious a lot. Another important to meditate on would be to give up the desire to want to control. Do your best.
Yes.
Don't expect any particular outcome because that's actually not for us to decide. So I would say
there's a lot of giving up control, and the confidence that you have in yourself is that, you know, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust the moment. You have to trust the unfolding. You have to have some faith in what's going on. you trade in control and anxiety for faith and trust.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Oh, that is nice summary.
Okay. So what else?
Uh, yeah, I think that meditation in itself, in order to, if you are successful in applying just that, already you've made very good steps in the mode of goodness. Just being able to do that, just being able to control, and then just to be in the moment and see how it plays out. And then just to keep yourself there, because there will also be then a tendency to move back into that state. So then just to maintain that you have, that, okay, now I'm here, I'm feeling peaceful, but now let's stay here. Let's not go back into this kind of other predicament I was just in. So then also to be focused on that too, is just remaining in the present moment.
So to recap, what you're talking about is to be observant of when you go back into anxiety. So you're watching yourself, you're being fair witness to watching what you're doing. And then the two modes that you were talking about, which are related, is meditation and being in the moment. Instead of being in the future and having anxiety about what you can't control and what you're worried about might go wherever, is that when you're in the moment and meditating, that you're changing your focus to being present to where you are, being in this moment. I can be here, but I don't have to ruminate about the future constantly, because I trust that it's going to work out. I'm going to do what I need to do. I trust myself, and I trust the unfolding, that I'm not accomplishing anything. All the time that I've spent in anxiety and worry, going around and around in my head, has never solved one problem, but I'm addicted to doing it.
Yeah,
which is really interesting to notice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and then if you've got another category or two under passion, and then ignorance. So that's an example. We did anxiety. Could you use a couple other popular things that people are doing, and then be able to talk them into goodness?
Yeah, another thing that we do in the mode of passion is that we, which is similar to the anxiety, is that we overthink things and we're constantly requiring stimulation. And then that stimulation itself causes you to be more overstimulated than you already are.
How do I?
It's freezing a bit. It's frozen. Let's see if it works, if it comes back. You're completely frozen. All right, it looks like Brian got dropped from the call. Maybe that's a very good time to end it there. Thank you very much for listening to today's podcast. I hope that you got some value from it. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them below the YouTube channel. And we'll see you tomorrow for another podcast. Thank you very much. Haribo.